Yep. Okay, we'll call this special session to order, waterfront redevelopment project update, and I'm going to turn it over to our city administrator, John Walsh.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, thank you for being here. This is a check-in with the St. Helens redevelopment project for those of you that have been with us. This is your first exposure to the project. You should find it very informative and in a review of the process that the city's level of effort that the city has put into this project. And if you've been with the project the whole way, I think it should be a good refresher and re-energizing. Mayor said, I'm John Walsh. I'm the city administrator. I've had the privilege of leading the administrative pieces of this project and putting it all together, and it's just really been a privilege to see what this project can do for this community. We will have a presentation from our city planner. It'll turn over to the prospective developer from Tokla Properties and his team, and then come back to me for a closing. And there should be an opportunity for some questions at the end, too. So, all right, Jenny, want to?
Yeah, this is great. Thanks for everyone for coming. On this first slide, I just wanted to point out that there is a project website that we've been updating with anything that happens. This entire presentation has also been uploaded to our project website. So for those of you who couldn't attend, that we are also broadcasting live on our website on the Granicus platform. So getting into this. So this slide is something I'm going to come back to multiple times throughout the presentation. It's just our timeline of events that have occurred. And like John said, you know, some of you have been engaged in this project and you've been to some of these events, and so it might be a repeat. But if you don't know about this project at all, this highlights the amount and quantity of planning that we've done for this site over the years. So it kind of started out pre-2012. We had a number of mill closures on the site. So as you know, or maybe you don't, the city of St. Helens was founded on the river. We were built on lumber industry and used the river for transportation, for boat building, for paper mill. We had a veneer mill. And so the focus of this phase one of the waterfront redevelopment project is the northern property there, highlighted as 1. And that's what we call the former veneer site. And then to the south, there's the wastewater lagoon. And then further to the south, there's the Boise White Paper Mill site. The city currently owns all 4 of those properties, if you're looking at the numbers there. But the focus of tonight is on 1, and that's the former veneer site. So the city took initiative in wanting to redevelop these properties because they were currently underutilized. You know, the mills left, and they left kind of a shell of a former industrial property on very prime waterfront real estate. And so one of the first things we did was apply for an American Institute of Architects Sustainability Design Assessment Team grant. And you'll hear the term SDAT thrown around. That's the acronym used for that. And what it is a group of technical experts come out to the community and engage in a public forum and talk about the redevelopment site. So we had a team of multidisciplinary professionals come out and host a series of workshops where they engaged the community and said, what do you want to see on this site? What makes sense? And that was the first really big open house event that we had celebrating the site and the project. And so we did extensive community outreach. We created these tickets that said, what's your waterfront? And I think tried to build support by calling it a ticketed event. We handed out posters to businesses. We used all of our social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. We posted on e-newsletters. We boosted posts on Facebook too. So all of that led to really highly attended. We also did this YouTube video, which was really cool. We worked with our Main Street coordinator and just celebrated the project in general. So what did it look like? We held a series of visioning workshops on environment and sustainability, community identity, public space and connectivity, and economic development and finance. And all of this input was summarized in a presentation of findings and next steps in the Columbia Theater. And that report, the end result of that SDAT project, was a report that we still use today. A lot of the recommendations Here's kind of an example of the site plan that they had and the watercolor rendering at the bottom. And it included things like a civic plaza, a central gathering place, a kayak launch and a marina, trails, public access through a boardwalk on the water's edge, and mixed-use development. And a lot of those things still ring true today. So the next thing we did, so that SDAT process actually happened before the city had even acquired the property. And then in 2015, we finalized our purchase of the site. In February 2015, we worked with Business Oregon through an integrated planning grant program. So this just looked at the SDAT recommendations and continued to engage the public and confirm the recommendations from that SDAT. And it also laid the groundwork for future redevelopment. So what did that look like? It was a short presentation in the Muckle building. So that bottom left photo is actually the inside of the Muckle building before it was renovated. So if you've been inside there now, that's where Big River Bistro is and the physical therapists. So that's a really memorable day for a lot of people because we opened up the site afterwards. And that was kind of the start of it being sort of a more public-driven process. And you got to walk on the site and actually see the view from the property. And now you can do that today with an interim trail. We also had interactive stations at that meeting where we gathered input on different uses and kind of rated them. And we developed these guiding principles that we are still using today for redevelopment. So then in May 2015, we worked with the Port of St. Helens on their partnership program. So what that was is the port was interested in improving transportation to some of their sites, and we also wanted to improve transportation to the Veneer site. So they helped us fund a study to see if it was economically feasible to build a new road to the site. Ultimately, the recommendation was to use existing infrastructure and just improve the intersections along Plymouth Street and Old Portland Road to Highway 30. So that's the blue route in this map. The yellow and the red are more longer term options to improve transportation, but this has kind of been used to guide some transportation planning work that we're working on now that John will touch on at the end of this presentation. So this is kind of the crown jewel of the planning projects that we've done on the site. And many of you probably attended some of these open houses. So in September 2015, we were awarded an EPA Brownfield Area-Wide Planning Grant. And this is huge. You know, it's a national program. And it allowed us to create the guiding document that we're using now to engage with developers. And we call that the Waterfront Framework Plan. And so what did that look like? It was an 18-month planning process. We created a waterfront redevelopment advisory committee that had a wide range of stakeholders and did scenario planning workshops where they got little pieces of paper that were sized appropriately, including parking, and tried to fit in all the different uses. We gave them the opportunity to figure out where the roads should go, where public access should go. The open space was all kind of considered in these meetings. We also had 3 open houses where that information was presented to the public and more input was gathered. And those were held in Merriweather Place, if you remember that. So that was over, a year time frame as well. So this was the final result, the framework plan. And so this site plan kind of shows the road alignments, some view corridors that run east-west throughout the site. It also enshrined public access along the waterfront and identified open space expansion from Columbia View Park south. And it also highlighted some key destination points that are marked as asterisks there. So this is what we're using to kind of guide our decision making moving forward. So this watercolor rendering was also one of the final products of the area-wide planning grant. And that's kind of been used to garner support and leverage other grant proposals in the future. There's also some renderings of what the Festival Street would look like, which is that east-west connection from South First Street to Strand. And we're calling it a Festival Street because it's intended to be more pedestrian-focused and less vehicular-focused. So you can actually close the street off and have street vendors and farmers markets or other festival-type events. And then there's also a rendering of what the greenway might look like at the water's edge. So in June 2017, further leveraging resources, we used some PSU graduate students to create a site plan for the expansion of the Columbia View Park. And so they looked at the existing Columbia View Park and noted that there's some challenges with 13 nights and a lack of space, and they wanted to solve some of those challenges of the existing park being a little bit too small. So they held some open houses and developed a site plan for the existing park and then the expanded portion of the park. And it also included public access along the water's edge with a boardwalk and kind of this new entrance at Cowlitz Street into what would be the expanded area of Columbia View Park. And this is also uploaded to our website if you're interested in this document. So then also in that same month, we issued our request for qualifications to find a developer for the site. And through that process, that was when Tokala Properties introduced themselves to us and submitted for that. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. And then in August 2017, we adopted our urban renewal plan and report. So one of the recommendations from the framework plan was that we start looking at the option of implementing urban renewal as a funding source. Obviously, there's a lot of public improvements that need to occur on the site in order to have development. And so in order to fund all of those public improvements, urban renewal is needed to help support that. So we engaged with the overlapping taxing districts who are affected by urban renewal, developed this urban renewal area, which is seen here. It obviously includes the waterfront property sites and then the transportation corridors connecting them. And it was adopted unanimously with taxing district support in 2017. So also in the urban renewal plan is a list of projects that we can spend the money on. And those projects focus on things that will improve economic development. So things like infrastructure and infrastructure improvements. The one I want to highlight is the waterfront boardwalk and trail, because the inclusion of this and the adoption of this plan has allowed us to leverage further grant applications to use the Urban Renewal Agency as our matching funds for larger grants. So without urban renewal, a lot of these projects probably wouldn't happen, especially in the near-term future. So finally, that brings us to January 2018. We entered an exclusive negotiating agreement with Tokala Properties. So based on their proposal, we decided to continue negotiations. And that leads us toward the second half of this presentation, which is by Tokala. So I want to introduce, is it Dwight?
It's Dwight Untie.
Okay, cool. If you guys want to grab this guy.
And this is Eric Cunar, who's joining me. He's with our architectural firm, so I'll give Eric a little more formal welcome in a moment. Would you prefer me to use the mic? Yes. And is it on? Well, I want to say thank you for being here. Thank you, Mayor and councilors and staff and community members. I will tell you just right up front, even before jumping into my presentation, you should be very impressed and very proud of the work that your city staff and your leadership has done on this site. I visit communities all over the Northwest, and they've done a remarkable job of moving this site to the point where you've got a bright future, and you're going to see development at some point in the not too distant future. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay, great. You're going to stand by me and guard me while I do this? Yeah.
If you don't mind.
I think that would be great.
I'll protect you from the crowd.
Oh, thank you. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into our presentation. And what the agenda for us this evening is to kind of introduce you to who we are, the development team and the prospective developer for this project. I want to talk to you about why St. Helens from our standpoint. I want to share with you the mission as I see it, our vision for the site. Would like to introduce you to our new hotel brand, Trace Hotels, which is going to be applicable to this site. I want to review with you what I think are a strong set of public benefits that could result from the proposed development. But I also want to talk to you about the challenges of pioneering development, because indeed to develop this site in St. Helens at the scope and scale that we propose is indeed pioneering. And then I want to share with you some thoughts and have a discussion with you about overcoming those challenges and kind of how to mitigate risks both for the public and the private partners in this type of transaction. So the project team consists of my company, Tokala Properties, design and architecture by Studio C, Mr. Eric Cunar, and Embarcadero Hospitality Group, which is a hotel consulting and development group. That's our partner on the hotel portion of this project, which we'll share with you shortly. So what about Tokala Properties? Okay, we're an Oregon-based development, construction, and property management company with 35 plus years of experience. We are focused on multifamily, mixed-use, and hotel development in the Northwest. We've completed over 2,000 units of housing, multiple mixed-use projects, and currently have our first boutique Trace Hotel under construction. We'll show you that in a moment. Importantly, I think for the community is to recognize that we're long-term investors. We build and we own and we manage assets and we keep them for long-term investment. We're not the build and break and leave town type of developers. And we've been focused since 2008, almost laser focused on mixed-use developments and what we call re-emerging historic Main Street districts throughout the state. And I think St. Helens fits that definition really, really well. You're a re-emerging historic Main Street district. And we're very, very experienced in the formation and execution of public-private partnerships, and that's an important component to how this development might move forward. Oh, so there's my more up-to-date slide. This one's a little prettier. It's the same thing I just went through. So I want to share with you some of the other public-private partnerships that we've been engaged in, just to give you some background on who we are and what we've accomplished. So this is Third Central. It's a transit-oriented mixed-use development in historic downtown Gresham, and that project is complete and fully occupied. And it has had a transformative impact on the historic Main Street district of Gresham. This is Fourth Main. It was a public-private partnership developed with the partners of Metro, the City of Hillsborough, and the Federal Transit Authority. It's a transit-oriented mixed-use development right on Main Street in historic downtown Hillsborough. That project is complete, and we were pleased to receive several awards for this project, including the Best Main Street Development in 2014 by the Oregon Main Street Association, a 2014 what they call a Better Bricks Award for the best public-private partnership in the state. That was awarded by the Portland Business Journal. And then this also involved a significant environmental remediation effort, and we received an Oregon Brownfield Award through the Oregon Department of Environmental Quality. This is Jesse Quinn. This is a public-private partnership that's now complete in the city of Forest Grove. It's 78 units of housing over ground floor retail, and we just had the ribbon cutting, I think it was December 3rd. It was a lot of fun. And this is right in historic downtown Forest Grove, 1 block off of Main Street near the university. Here's a picture. I just wanted you to see the full scale of the project. And this is our most current public-private partnership. This is with the City of Independence. And we are in the process of developing our first boutique hotel, a 75-room, very highly customized hotel on the Willamette River front. And adjoining that will be 124 units of multifamily housing. And I want you to just gaze at that picture because it really reminds me of a lot of the similar conditions that are present here in St. Helens. And you have a large site that used to be a sand and gravel operation. In your case, it used to be a veneer plant. The city moved to do environmental remediation and planning work, and a lot of the things that Jenny talked about were done here in Independence, and then they were able to get the site to the point where there might be some interest in the development community. And they reached out to the development community, and through a competitive process, we were selected, and we're just really excited to be working on this project. This is the hotel. You saw that was under construction there, and it'll be opening summer 2019, the Independence. And I just threw this slide in of Independence just because I like what it says at the bottom, rich history, small town charm. And I feel very much the same way about what you have in terms of your historic Main Street district here in St. Helens. And our last project we're currently working on is in the city of the Dalles. It's a public-private partnership, and we're bringing a project to their Main Street district called the Federal. And we're under what's called a disposition and development agreement with the City of the Dalles, and we're hoping to get this project started next year. And before I go further, I'd like to introduce Eric Cunar again with Studio C Architecture and have him share a little bit about his firm and some of his thoughts on the site.
Thank you, Dwight. Thank you very much. Thank you for having us tonight. Studio C, small firm, we are 8 and 3 partners and 5 employees. We have a lot of different experience. As you can hear, I'm not from here initially, not from this part of the country at least. And but I moved from Paris to New York. I worked in New York for 3 years, and then I met my wife in Paris, and she's from Portland. That's the reason why I'm here. Dwight told you about 3 of the projects we are currently working with Tocola Properties, and this is really a good opportunity for us to tell you what difference it makes for not only the people who experience the building, but also for us who design the building, to work with, let's say, a company that will own the building for a long time. They don't flip their building, they are not here for a quick profit, and that makes a gigantic difference for us as architects. It will make a big difference for you too. But for us, it's already a big difference. This is one of the projects we did, was inaugurated last year. It's in Eugene. It's an hotel, mixed-use project. We have 1 level of parking below ground. We have 1 level of retail, first floor. And then we have 3 levels of parking. And to make it a little more complicated, we have 3 levels of hotels on top of that. So complex, interesting, and challenging also. That's Bellevue Towers. I did that with one of my partners in a previous firm. Gigantic project. It's not what we are planning to do here. It's just to show you that even a small firm can have a lot of experience. That's what also Tocola understand, and that's great. That's another project I did in another firm. That's the Adidas headquarters. I don't know if you have seen it in Portland. So complicated project, also existing hospital that's transforming into a headquarters for these foreign companies, but very implanted in Portland. This is the 2nd biggest headquarters in the world, and a lot of employees, very complicated. The site was absolutely a nightmare, but we managed to do something really interesting with it. It was published everywhere, many awards. And I can tell you one thing about your site is at first we are very excited at Studio C to be able to work on a site of that quality. It's incredible. The other thing also I want to tell you is pretty challenging. You know, it's not like we can screw it up. I mean, it's so beautiful that you have all the pressure on you as a designer to be sure that you have the best project at the end of the day. And that's a lot of pressure. The site is extraordinary, but it's not perfect. It's a little narrow in certain area, which pushes us to do eventually things that we'd like not to do. So it's also pushing us to find new solutions that we have not found yet, but we're working on it. So just for you to understand that this is a very challenging project. When you go on the site, it's always interesting to see that people, the first time you go on the site and you think, wow, geez, it's great, it's enormous. I mean, it's gigantic. As a human being, you look at the thing, it's like, wow, there's no problem to put building here and there. The only problem is that when you start putting building here and there and you try to plan where the roads are, where the parkings are, then everything shrinks drastically. And it becomes a real challenge. So that's something that's what we are struggling with now, is trying to do kind of a master plan, trying to understand with reality. You have seen already images that people have done before we were involved, but how could I explain that? They are not easy to do. It's just that they are not the real world. It's just imagination, and you have a site and you say, well, the building can go there, the road can go there. When you start to make an economic sense and design sense of all these things that we have to put together, it's a lot more challenging. So that's kind of where we are, and we are very happy to be there.
Thank you. I've had the chance to work with Eric an awful lot, and one thing that's so great is he is all about community and all about doing the right thing, and he wants to do the right thing for St. Helens, and we feel the same about the importance of this site. We recognize this site's transformative. This could change the future of your community, and we don't take that responsibility lightly. I want to introduce our hotel partner. They're not able to be with us this evening, but the company is called Embarcadero Hospitality Group, and the two primary principals are Mark Keller and Sandra Storm. I think the City Council had a chance to hear from them in an earlier meeting, but these are just really exceptional folks that have tremendous hotel development and management experience and are an absolute joy to work with, and I'm anxious for you to meet them because I think you're going to like them a lot. So Embarcadero's developed over 20 hotels, both branded and independent hotels in the western United States. They've managed more than 20 hotels, including several award-winning properties. They do a lot of consulting with local jurisdictions and cities across the West Coast to help them navigate the complexities of hotel development and to help assess whether a hotel would even work in a lot of communities. All the hotels that they've developed and opened have really flourished, and they remain in business today. And they're just, and this says it well, they're passionate about the multiple bottom lines. They know there has to be financial success for the investors, but they want happy guests, they want empowered staff, and they want strong community engagement. So I want to talk to you a little bit about why St. Helens, what attracted us to St. Helens. And if you go back to that earlier slide where I talked about our focus on re-emerging historic Main Street districts, that sort of sets the template as to why we're here, because that's what you have going on. But just stick with me. I think about your downtown, it's authentic. It's really an authentic, charming, historic downtown district with amazing architecture. You have this rare and incredible resource with the river. And you have proximity to Portland that's, we like to say, just far enough away, and it's en route to the coast. So you're just close enough, but you're just far enough away, and that's an important criteria for us. And this next one is really significant for me. I can detect, and I have learned from communicating with members of your community, with your staff, and with your leadership, that there is a real sense of energy and commitment to revitalizing St. Helens. And I don't want to engage with the community, and I don't want to enter into a public-private partnership unless there's that kind of energy, that kind of commitment, that kind of excitement, and it's really starting to take hold here. And it's an impact opportunity. Some of you have heard me say this before, but it's true. I've been doing this for 35 years, folks. I don't need to do this anymore. I do this because I love it. I'm passionate. I want to create things that have an impact, that make a difference on the community. I don't want to just build another project. I've built plenty of them in my day. And from an investment standpoint, since we're long-term investors, we're investing our own money in these projects, I only want to invest where I think the future's bright, right? Why would I invest if I didn't think St. Helens had a bright future? I'm a believer. Now, I'm sometimes worried that some of you don't quite yet believe the future that St. Helens holds, but I think we can all go along together and have a very bright future. So let's talk about St. Helens and what we're terming it, and kind of have called it in this presentation, St. Helens Landing. That could certainly change. What's the mission? It's to create a transformative mixed-use development that will reconnect the community of St. Helens with its riverfront heritage, solidify the reemergence of historic downtown St. Helens as a vibrant and thriving center of the community, and catalyze further economic development activity in the downtown district. That's the mission as I see it. That's our job, working together with you. Well, how do we do that? What's the vision? Well, what we're envisioning for the site is a 120-room destination resort hotel, a Trace Hotel, and 160 units of multifamily housing in 4-story elevator service buildings with one-level living. And that would be combined with some retail services, including a waterfront restaurant, a complete spa and wellness center, and of course some shops and some retail related services. Think it through with me. What you have to do and based on our experience to help a community have a transformative, catalytic, impactful development is you have to do a couple of things. First, you have to give people living in your downtown, more of them. so that they can activate the streetscape, so that they can spend their money with local businesses and buy local. And a hotel just adds to that, because the hotel brings what? Visitors. And visitors bring what? They bring money to the community. They want to explore the community. They'll spend their money on local goods and services. And when you combine more people living in your downtown with a hotel that's bringing in the visitor component, and then you have the appropriate retail to support it, it's absolutely catalytic. So I want to introduce you to Trace Hotels. This is a brand that we just developed, and I've worked very hard to kind of articulate our vision about what we want to do. And this, stick with me on this. Trace, to follow a course, trail, to make one's way. Forging a new path, being a trailblazer, tracing history. And these are some images that we've gathered that we think reflect the adventure, the history. It combines relaxation and engagement with the environment. These are just sort of images that help guide us about this brand. So who we are, and bear with me, I'm going to read a couple of these things because I just feel inclined to do so. So we offer adventure, but not adventure for adventure's sake. This is not something to check off a bucket list or share on Instagram. It's our goal to provide unforgettable experience and share the hidden gems of the Northwest with the world. We're drawn to ideas and opportunities that others might pass over, and I'll tell you, a lot of people will pass over St. Helens. To us, that draws our attention. So we're drawn to ideas and opportunities that others might pass over because we're looking for things that are authentic and true, where value springs not from the spreadsheet, but from the experience that can be created. And at Trace Hotels, we believe in partnerships. We believe that we are obligated to do something that changes our communities and our guests in different ways. We believe in building hotels that are the jumping off point for amazing and one-of-a-kind adventures. We want people to come to St. Helens and discover this community, and discover the river, and discover your heritage, and understand your history, and explore the hills and the surrounding areas, and engage in the community. We believe that old buildings and communities have a story that is important. The people who have survived generations have wisdom and stories to tell. There's an opportunity in the road less traveled. And our mission, and boy, this hit me so hard when I was preparing for this little presentation, what we had put here and how it applies to your community. Think it through with me. For hundreds of years, people have traveled to the Northwest to explore wild rivers, rugged mountains, and forests filled with abundance and magic. The soil and the river have provided generations upon generations of community, have provided generations upon generations the ability to explore and thrive. Towns and communities have boomed and busted with industry and with global markets. But no matter what the hardships have faced, these communities, the rivers, the mountains, and the forests remain powerful and majestic. Most importantly, the people remain. And they are determined to keep their communities alive even through the most difficult times. Can I see some head shakings here? Because I know you guys have been through some tough times in your history. So we've made it our mission to build hotels that matter to the community, to the staff, and to the guests. They provide an opportunity for communities to grow again, to be proud, and to share the adventure and the story. So let's talk about the specific hotel for St. Helens a little bit. We envision this 120-room, highly customized boutique hotel right on the river. We want to embrace the river with a U-shaped design in a courtyard. We see a walkable, pedestrian-oriented presentation where people can flow in and out of downtown and to and from the river readily. We've got ideas about the colors and how we want the hotel to look and the feel, and to marry it with the nature and the beauty of what you have here and your historic architecture. And we want it to tell a story. And we looked at elements. That's what we call it when we're analyzing these type of projects. What elements can we get excited about? Well, there's one, the river, fishing, boating, sailing. And amenities that we see in the hotel that would directly connect with that element of the river would be that every single guest room will have a river view. There won't be a single room that doesn't have a river view. And that's thanks to this guy's design work. The lobby of the hotel will have a tremendous river view when you enter the hotel. The hotel will be a partner with river guides and rental organizations to ensure that guests have access to the equipment they need for water sports and water activities. Rick will take people out regularly with no charge. The waterfront system trail will surround the hotel, making a riverfront hike as easy as walking out the front door of your room. And the trail system that we envision, the boardwalk along the front of the river and the related trails that you have here, both bicycle and pedestrian trails, really provide an outdoor opportunity for the hotel guests that's unparalleled. So what other elements? Well, just general recreation. As we analyze your community and the assets surrounding your community, we see a lot of cycling. We see a lot of mountain biking. We've learned about folks that are in your community that are involved in birding, horseback riding, hiking. These are just some of the activities. And how we want to connect the hotel to those specifically is first we have an outside wash station for bikes and hiking equipment. So when you come back from a day on the trail and back from a day on your mountain bike, you can clean your bike up outside and have a specialized place to do it and to dry down your equipment. We're going to create a bicycle workroom with benches and tools available 24 hours a day. So if you're a cyclist and you want to come to the hotel and you have a problem with your bike, you can tune it up and work on it right in the hotel. Each guest room will accommodate an in-room storage for at least 2 bikes in a dedicated custom-designed spot. We've done the same thing in Independence, and we're getting tremendous response from the cycling community that, hey, somebody's actually trying to ask us what our needs are and trying to design the hotel rooms to accommodate that. And the hotel will partner with the nearby bike shops for rentals and on-call services for people that come to town. They want to explore St. Helens on a bike, but they didn't bring one with them. The other element we see that's critical here is we understand that in order to get people to St. Helens, it's got to be a destination facility. It can't be your standard hotel or motel off the highway where you spend the night when you're headed someplace else. It's got to be dramatic and dynamic and iconic and draw people here just for that hotel experience. And when they come, then they're going to get to meet you and understand your community. So that means we've got to have a waterfront restaurant. It means that we're going to add a complete spa and wellness center to the hotel. And we're going to create a destination for friends and family from far and near. People from Portland who want just get away from it all for a couple of days, and people from across the country and across and internationally as well. And we're creating conference capabilities so that we can attract appropriate sized businesses who might want a conference here and spend the night in your community. So what are the amenities? Well, dramatic and dynamic architecture to complement this one-of-a-kind Columbia River location, guest rooms with river views, and we're adding balconies so you can get outside a little bit in your hotel room. You guys like balconies when you're in a hotel rather than just being constantly closed in? And just high window seats and some other kind of high-end amenities. The riverfront restaurant will include both indoor and outdoor seating with a riverfront patio. It's going to feature local wines, brews, and produce. The spa treatment facility offering the full range of spa services, health and wellness, etc., and classes. And then we're going to include a very large, significant indoor pool and hot tub facility. Local events. You know, people want authentic experiences. They don't want made-up stuff. And you've got them. And, man, you have these fun events, and they're important. So what kind of amenities are we tuning around that idea of events? Well, we've positioned the hotel to provide lodging for the existing local events and to generate new events. It's going to feature a custom-designed, warm, intimate, and flexible indoor event space where you can have retreats and, well, it can be a wedding venue. It can be programmed with authors and artists and craft makers and culinary participation, and wine makers can share their craft and all those types of intimate opportunities to learn and engage. It's close enough to Portland, again, to reach a whole range of people and just far enough away to be a great place. And lastly, it's community is about helping communities thrive again. So what kind of project outcomes might you expect at such time that this development moves forward? Well, let's go down the list. You should expect enhanced pedestrian and bike connectivity to the riverfront. We get it. We don't want to build a development that's a big wall to the community reaching the river that's theirs and has been part of their heritage. We want to enhance the connectivity so that you can readily get to the riverfront and enjoy the river on foot, on a bicycle. The hotel itself is going to bring literally thousands of new visitors to St. Helens, and importantly, I think, for the local economy, it brings people all year round, not just for one event and then they're gone, but it brings people all year round, and that means that gives the local businesses a chance to be sustainable. So many times we come into these communities and the storefronts are full, and 3 weeks later that restaurant's out of business. Maybe that's an exaggeration, but you know what I mean. Your storefronts turn over because it's darn hard to sustain small local businesses. You need some support, and the hotel brings those visitors and it brings their dollars. The project and the hotel in particular provided this jumping off point for people to explore the community and the surrounding environment. It's going to add hundreds of new people who actually live downtown. And that's a big deal because they spend their money where they live and they activate your streets into the evening hours. So instead of just rolling up at 4 o'clock, your community becomes vibrant 7 days a week and for extended hours into the evening. It's going to boost activity, as I mentioned, for the local merchants. It's going to create jobs, both the construction jobs involved in bringing this to fruition and the permanent jobs, particularly those associated with the hotel operation and management. I mentioned the enhanced pedestrian activity and vibrancy on the streetscape and the extension of hours. And this next one, I can't tell you how powerful it is. We see it in community after community after community. As soon as sticks start coming up out of the ground, it gives people a resurged feeling of hope and that there's a bright future, and it creates just visual evidence that investment is underway in our community. And that excites people, and it excites businesses to try harder, to expand, to grow, to improve. It helps attract new businesses that see the dynamic and activity that's occurring. It's just that visual connection that can just snap a community right out of it, and all of a sudden they go from kind of despair to, hey, this is going to be fun, let's get on board, we got a bright future. It catalyzes additional development and economic activity, and it will, and particularly in your historic Main Street district. And you're going to get a boost, your community is revenue-wise, through the lodging tax. You know, it doesn't all stay local, but it's very, very important. And then let's not forget that this type of activity and development will return the riverfront property from being public property. It will return it to the tax rolls. Challenges to this kind of pioneering development? Well, they're significant. You can think it through with me. There's just a lack of comparable properties by which the developer, appraiser, and a lender can establish value. You're not going to be able to look around and find another 120-room boutique hotel in St. Helens. And so it makes it very hard to establish value, particularly for lenders. The prevailing rental rates and room rates in the community right now are at a level which really won't support new construction. And so that's a challenge. We have to convince our lender and our investors and ourselves as putting in our own money that this is going to work. It's also difficult to measure demand for a product type that's never been here before. You know, there's a degree of speculation on our part, but we're very good at analyzing that. There's a limited number of lenders willing to participate on pioneer projects and in small communities, frankly. Equity investors are reluctant because they think there might be a lower rate of return on their investment, and you know, it's kind of an unproven market. And then there's just this overall perception that's created that if you invest in St. Helens, it might be riskier than if you invest someplace else. So those are obstacles that we have to overcome together in order to create new development here. And let's think through how these obstacles impact the feasibility of this type of project. Construction costs for the desired project are going to exceed the resulting market value. And that's a gap. That's why you don't see a lot of new construction here, because it just costs so much to build it, and then you get it done and it's not even worth what you paid to build it. So who would do that, right? You got a gap. And the rate of return on investment tends to be insufficient to attract the needed investment capital. I mean, we're talking a hotel here that's in the $35 to $45 million range just for the hotel, let alone all the accompanying housing we intend. So it's a capital-intensive business. It requires money to get the job done. So that's how it impacts project feasibility. And what's the bottom line? Here it is. In order to create an economically feasible project, the financial gap between project cost and market value and between the existing low rates of return and what are needed to attract capital, that gap has to be closed. It's just that simple, or nothing happens. So how do we meet the challenge? Well, we meet the challenge by creating a public-private partnership. It's one of the only vehicles available to effectively address these market and economic obstacles. And really what it does is this amazing thing. It leverages the skills of your staff and your leadership and your community together. They have skills I don't have in planning and preparing and bringing infrastructure and creating a template for development. Things I can't do, that's you. That's your leadership. But there's things that they can't do that I can. I know how to build things. I know how to design things. I know how to get them permitted. I know how to get them financed. I know how to attract the equity and the capital and get the improvements up in the air. But I can't do it alone, and they can't do it alone, and you can't, we can't. So it's all about partnerships. And it's to give you a sense of, I don't want to say safety, but just so you understand the foundation of these partnerships, everything gets memorialized. It gets put into writing in the form of a disposition and development agreement. And that distills the respective public and private partners' responsibilities, obligations, and commitments. It creates a definitive timeline in which the development must occur. It caps, puts an absolute cap on the amount of public financial participation in the project, and it assures accountability of both the public and private partners. There's risk mitigation strategies that I encourage when I go to communities and talk to them about how to do public-private partnerships, and here they are. For the city, my recommendation is this: you select a developer who has public-private partnership experience, because it's difficult, it's complex, it's demanding, it takes commitment to see it through, and if you don't have an experienced partner, they'll just fall by the wayside. You've got to select a developer, in my opinion, with a track record of long-term investment. If I'm a speculative developer, if I'm a guy just trying to make the fastest buck I can, am I coming to St. Helens, guys? Really, honestly? No, I'm not. I'm going to a lot of other markets where I can get in and get out and get my profit. And so you've got to be thinking of selecting a development team that's interested in long-term and interested in being a long-term partner in your community like we are. And importantly, we encourage, and I'm certain your city leadership would do the same, to utilize a third-party consultant to look at our proposal and assure you that we're not trying to rip you off. And also to, more importantly, or equally important, is to measure what's going to be the return on the public's investment. When do you get your money back? And how do you get it back? And how does it come into the community? And how long is it going to take? And that economic analysis is really, really important to these projects. And I've got risk mitigation strategies along with my partners. We're only going to invest where there's strong community support for downtown revitalization, period. If you don't support it, if you don't want it, if you're not excited about it, we can't make it work. It's too darn hard. It takes too much time. And I'm getting too old. I want these projects to move along and be successful. We have to properly capitalize the transaction. That's the way we mitigate risk the most. We put in more cash and borrow less than the typical developer. That helps keep down risk by keeping down debt, just like you would in your own household, right? You don't want to get too far over your skis. We try to properly size the scope of these developments to match the local demand. And another strategy we use is we like to phase them. In this case, we would do the hotel first, and then the second phase would be the adjoining housing improvements. And last, and I've said it repeatedly, to approach the project as a long-term investment. I'm sure I'm taking way too much time. Jenny, can you make that happen? Yes. So I want to show you a little flyover video we took of your downtown waterfront. It sure excites me. If you can take a look. Darn technology. Eric will now do some tap dancing for the group. Oh, darn. Hopefully it works. Wow, isn't that cool? You have a beautiful community. Boy, if it really looks good from a drone. Wasn't that neat? So that's the end of our presentation. I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here. I know I covered a lot of ground and I spoke kind of quickly, but Eric and I are here for questions if you have any. I think you have a council meeting also coming up in just a moment, so probably press the time limit.
I think we have just a couple more slides to talk about there. That's some of it you've actually covered. If you could advance, either hand the clicker over or do it yourself. I'll do it from here. Maybe. So I wanted to touch back or circle back on the amount of, we look at that list and the amount of resources that the city has managed to leverage, and really with limited local dollars. This is a lot of state funds, a lot of partnerships with the state and the federal and private foundational kinds of opportunities to move this planning project forward. 'Cause it's a big project and we want to do it the best we can. So we've really reached far and wide to, cast a wide net of interest in who will help us get there. And, number of these grants are very expensive. There's a lot of technical assistance has gone through, EPA and, a couple grants there. The one we're currently working on right now is the Riverfront Connector, which creates the loop that we have. The initial phase of this was a connection from Highway 30 down through Holton down to the Riverfront District, but this connects that loop back out to the highway, going up and out Old Portland Road and connecting back to the highway at an earlier spot. So people would have this loop of a nice driver experience. And the roads today, if you look at them, imagine with more capacity, there's some intersections that are pretty problematic as far as angled intersections and potential conflicts there. But that's all grant funded, and we are patiently waiting it's called a build grant, a federal transportation grant that we're currently under review. It's a $15 million ask from the federal government, transportation related, to connect, to build boardwalks, the street pieces of this project. And talk a little bit about the boardwalk experience. It would start up into Columbia View Park right at the top of the gangplank. So it wouldn't start just at the edge of this property. It would come up into Columbia View Park, create a vertical at water, over water experience along the water, a 16-foot path that heads south from southward, and making those transportation connections. There was, I think, 800 applications total over the country, 14 from Oregon. Our project was selected among the top 3 to be championed to the for both Wyden and Merkley and Bonamici's offices. We're pretty excited about that, and we should have some knowledge of that, the receipt of that effort more towards the end of this month or beginning of early December at the latest. So that application is online, and it's really a good application. It kind of culminates all the work that's gone into this. And there's a picture of Councillor Morton and I back in D.C. at the Secretary Chow's office there, presenting this project and really giving it the best chance that we thought we could. So, and I think that's it. So it's an $18 million project. We're asking for $15 million. The $3 million would be a pledge of the urban renewal funds coming in and potential hotel receipts. And Tokelo was a signature on that grant to kind of catalyze that, just further leveraging assets. And, I think we got 2 minutes. We don't have a lot of time for questions, but I don't know, Mayor, if you want to take the lead on that, or
Sure. So has anybody got any questions? Go ahead. I want to actually get the mic. Can we hand it? We can bring it to you, and then if somebody else has a question, we got enough for. Thank you, Matt.
Right. Thank you. Frank Brandon, 332 Allerton Street. The only other time I've been in this room with this many people was at a city council meeting last year where the entire community that attended was discussing height limitations. Yep. This city council decided on a height. Are you able to work within the constraints of that height decision? That's my question. Yes, I understand. I'm sorry, guys. I got to go and milk the cow. But my wife asked me to come and talk to you just for a minute, and that's my illustration.
Could I have your name, please?
Yeah, my name's Martin. Martin.
Martin?
Yeah. I just wanted to say to you that there's a lot of people who don't want to progress, and there are a lot of people who want to progress. The thing about progress is you can control it. This is how you control it. You have probably the best team that I've seen assembled for a long time. I worked for many years with architects, and in fact, where do you go? You and I worked together once with Adidas, remember? Yeah. Okay. So, hi. Can. They should have said can. Anyway, what I was going to say to you was that you can control this development. You won't get a better team, and it's free, just about. You know, they're going for grants and all the rest of it. And you really need to think about it very carefully, because if we're more worried about, the view from the people on the bluff, at the risk of this kind of development, which will bring in millions of dollars. And, I live here in Tide Creek. I pump gas at the Deer Island store. I drive a CC Rider, and I do illustrations, and that's one of mine. But I just want you to know that you cannot get a better team. And I've worked with Walker Macy for 10 years. I've worked with, I think I've met one of you somewhere. Yeah. But you can't let it go. If you let this opportunity go, you're putting yourself back 10 years. And that means that Scappoose, Rainier will get ahead of you. Seriously. So just so you know, I got to go do the cow.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you. Matt, you got one over here who's had his hand raised.
Great presentation. I'm Philip Stanton. I've also invested in Old Town for a few years, and I have a house right on the bluff, and I embrace you. I have no complaints at all. My question to you is more about matching your project with the feel of the town. Brick facade is a big dominant thing in the town, but it's just wanted you to speak on how you're looking at the buildings and saying we'd like the hotel to not be a stark change.
it's interesting that first we try to analyze the architecture you already have in town. So I'll go take some pictures, analyze them, and try to figure out what I can take from them. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, our building is not going to look old. There is no chance in the world that it's going to go old. We cannot do that today. Plus, it will be ridiculous. It will cost a fortune, and Dwight will be so pissed that he'll never give me another project. So it's not going to happen. Now, we will do our best to match something that will be slightly more modern in the feeling with something you already have, which is more ancient. So this is what we will do, and we are not going to get it right the first time. We'll do several schemes, and we'll eventually reach the
Are you still in that process?
Excuse me?
You're still in that process?
Oh yeah, we have not even started any elevation or anything. We're just looking at basically how things can fit on the site. That's what I was trying to explain, and that's already challenging enough for now. When we'll be done with that, we'll go to the next step, which will be to try to put the program into some volumes. And then when we have the volumes, then we work with the color, material, and everything together. And the volume will evolve when we change the materials and things like that. You know, what's complicated is that it's not one thing after the other. It's one thing after the other, but then you step back a little bit and you change something else. And it's like playing chess, in fact. And you always try to be thinking about the next move, even if you are just doing this move. This is kind of like design, what design is about. So that's kind of where we are. We are at the beginning of the process where we just trying to figure out how we best use the site.
And Phil,
Exciting.
just so you know, we do have standards to help tell us how to play that game of chess.
Yes,
There's
correct.
there's a lot of ways to win, but we do have guidelines.
We cannot do anything we want.
And I just want to add that this is my approach with these types of projects and my direction to our design team. We need to make sure we understand the fabric of your historic community that's present right now. Let's honor that by trying to, draw influences from it. But I don't want Eric and this team to just create a building that looks like one you already have. I want it to honor your historic fabric, but I also want the building to point to your future. And when we get it right, it's a wonderful thing. And this guy right here is one of the best at it.
Matt, you got one right here, gentlemen.
Yeah, so I'm Joe Turner. I've lived in Pendleton before I came here, and I was on the board of the directors of the Portland Downtown Partnership. We restored and cleaned up downtown, and it took us 5 years, about 5.5 years from the time we started. And then now when they build something new, they have something to go by. Now are we going to work team and team here to where, like downtown, these buildings here, we inspected them for integrity, and we inspected the roof. We steam cleaned, we sandblasted. And this is all volunteer work. It cost the city nothing. It didn't cost the properties owner nothing. So, or is this something that we're looking at to where we're doing it at the same time that you're planning your building?
It's really up to the investors, I think, on that own the buildings down here right now.
It's up to the city, because the city has to.
If you own a building, I'm not gonna. I would expect that somebody, if I owned a building down here, I would expect that they would have to have my permission to do anything to my building. But I could be wrong.
We have grant projects in our urban renewal plan to help with those kind of things, to help with future
Yes,
funding
we do.
of projects
we have,
like that.
Storefront facade, 0 interest loans or low interest loans. That'll be part of the urban renewal for that. Al's got a question.
The $15 million grant was mentioned. How dependent is your project on that grant?
Well, to make this work, there has to be infrastructure in order for us to build. And part of the infrastructure that I think is really important, not just for our project, but for the community, is that waterfront boardwalk component. And so, yeah, it's a big deal to the whole picture. And I don't know what the alternative plans are if the grant's not forthcoming, but I'm sure this smart group of people is working on multiple things. But yeah, I mean, the infrastructure's got to be there. That template's got to be there for us to build on top of it.
Yep.
No, that's not the gap. The gap is, what we're in what's called an exclusive negotiating period with the city. And during this period, we're going to come up with the design and layout of the project, and we're going to estimate its cost, and we're going to take a look at what the available financing and how much private capital can be raised. And when we get done with all that analysis, which is months and months and months away, we'll arrive at a number that we all know is the gap. And then we strategize together as to what tools are available to fill that gap. And there's many of them that, we've used different ones in different communities.
And just so you know, I've researched Tokala and Dwight Untie here. Mike Sykes was the former manager of Forest Grove who brought him in on that project. And I've also been talking with John McArdle, who is the mayor of Independence, and he's said you guys are 100% following through the timeline that you say you're going to do. You've been meeting that, and I've seen him randomly probably about 3 times in the last year. Every time I just kind of hit him up on that, and he's very happy with your work so far. And then John Howard Blumenthal.
Is there a plan to ask for a tax deferral or a tax forgiveness for the project? Because one of your points was bringing tax revenue in from the new buildings and the new facilities. And I want to know what the plans are as far as that is concerned, because there was a lot of criticism in the Rainier area over that proposal and the series of proposals that eliminated tax revenues to the county and to the city.
Yeah, at this point in time, there's no consideration of a tax abatement program. There is one program that the state of Oregon has called a vertical housing tax credit that I have encouraged your staff to investigate. And if it was adopted, there is a potential for someone doing a housing project of mixed use with ground floor retail and housing above there. That does open the door for the developer to apply for a partial tax credit. Still has to pay tax, but he gets some relief. He or she would get some relief on the taxes. But at this point, we're not pursuing that for this project.
Howard?
And I've probably got 2 questions for you guys, and that is I like the ideas. My name is on the waterfront development plan, actually. So, I mean, even though I'm a little anti-growth, I realize it. My main question is, you've never stated how much of the property you're taking. Are you going to build on the whole property or just part of it? And my next question would be, if you build on the whole property, we still got to remember we want to have parking. And when we start talking over 250 units, we're talking, is there enough room for 500 to 600 parking places down there is the next question. So that's
well, why don't you give me the easy questions?
But I'm not first. I just want to make sure we maintain places for people to park.
Yeah, to your first question, which is, would we be intending to use the entire property? No. So we're only intending to develop a portion of it. I don't know. Eric is at work doing the site design, whether that's half or 2/3, or I don't know exactly what it is. But no, we're not intending to do the.
It's like Jacob said, our city planner, that it's going to meet all this criteria, and the state level, that they have to have X amount of parking to meet the criteria of our codes. Okay. So, and there are long ways from that. If you have questions like that, we will have answers for you soon, but they're a long ways away from that portion of the Yeah, let's take one more last question right here.
Hi, Jen Farrington. This is the first time I've gotten a clearer view of what you guys have planned and putting forward, and I've been a part of the process as much as I could leading to this point. And I just wanted to say that I'm really excited about it. One of the main concerns that I had was, and this is my own personal concern, and then also just listening to a lot of the community from all sorts of walks of life, I have picked up on a sense of a bit of an us and them kind of concern mentality, us being the community, them being anyone from not St. Helens coming in. And that, of course, I mean, that is the conundrum, right? So what I do love, one of the things I love about this is a real sense and appreciation for social infrastructure. And I want to really just put my vote in there saying, please push that. And that's not just for you guys, but that's for all of you. I know that this public partnership, public-private partnership is a really interesting way of going about this. And this as a team, and it's not just you guys, but it's also us, right? So please continue to push that social infrastructure, because I think that kind of space where, that kind of space is like libraries and parks and events and places where everyone in our entire community across all socioeconomic backgrounds and can come together in one space. And I think that we desperately need that now to bring our community back together. And this kind of site and this kind of hopeful building brings in cash and then has the potential to bring us together as a community. And please continue to push that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Okay, Councilor Morton.
I just placed this document back in the lobby, and on your way out, Chief Greenway will, if you care to get one, get one of these. It's a matter of legacy, I believe, because this is the best document we have for our vision, our passion for going forward on the build project. This is the grant application that's sitting on Secretary Chow's desk as we talk. And so please take one. There's 50 copies, and I count about 50 people in here, so take one, please.
All right.
On your way out, Chief Greenway will pass out one out to you.
Dwight, Untie, thank you very much.
Thank you all for
today.
coming.
Yep. Okay, we're gonna take a 5-minute break before we start our meeting.